Hello everyone, this is Robin Carter with Robin's Creations. I'm here today to share with you my other alternates with the Beyond the Horizon Paper Pumpkin Kit from March of 2022. If you are already subscribed to my channel, thank you for supporting my channel with your subscription. And if you are new, I'd really appreciate if you would hit the subscribe button. This video, I'm having to do a voiceover because I did not have my microphone plugged in. So I hope you can follow me through with this video okay doing the voiceover. I just got through showing you the cards we had already made with the previous two videos. We did each of the 3 card fronts and then used the bottom part of the envelopes. So this is what you should have left from your kit if you followed my alternates. The bottoms we used already, and that's what I have left since I've already cut up several to make my examples with for the class that we had on Monday. So we're going to be using the vine envelope for today, and as well as the patterned envelope and the blue spot envelope. So you would have probably 3 of each left over if you didn't create these at class. And so we need to trim off the white parts of our envelopes on the side. We've already cut them open and used the bottom part. And so I'm going to show you how we need to trim those. We will be cutting those vertically so that we can get 5.5 inches tall. Because on those cards, I went from top to bottom 5.5 of the whole card front. So, by the way, if you are a subscriber of mine and purchase this kit, that's something I also offer for my Paper Pumpkin subscribers, is when I make alternates, they all get the PDF with instructions and a picture of how I did the alternates. And they have the option to purchase the add-on kit, which is all the supplies needed to make the alternates. So that's one perk that I offer my subscribers. So now you want to get out your trimmer. And I'm right-handed, so I like my blades on the right. And we're going to be trimming our envelopes to get ready to prepare for our alternates. I didn't have any card bases, so I needed to make those real quick. So this is just a reminder that for a typical book fold type of card base, I score at 4 1/4. So I just run my scoring blade over it multiple times to make sure I have a good score. Because if you don't score it well, sometimes your paper can, is it called peeling? I don't know, it just doesn't fold right and it kind of looks bad. So I just make sure I have a good score line. So you score once and then cut once. Always measure twice, cut once. And then I cut in the direction where the paper is going to be pushed up against the edge of the trimmer, because it could shift a little if you're pulling it down and you pull your paper with it. Just something I've always done. So measure twice. I'm cutting the second card base. So now I have 4 card bases to go. If you get a lot of fraying, then it's probably time to replace your blade. If you always cut up, you can also turn your blade around in your trimmer and use the other side. I tend to use top and bottom, so mine wear on both sides. Okay, so if you trimmed your envelopes just a hair off the score line of the envelope, then you're going to want to do the same on this side, just so it has a smooth edge and that score line doesn't show. So just a teeny tiny bit. So do that on each of your envelopes. You can see I got it very close. And then we're going to trim it 5.5 inches tall. And there's no 5.5 mark at the bottom, so I have to move it up top. And sorry, that's a little off camera, but you want to trim that 5.5 inches tall. So there we have that's just scrap trash, and you might as well throw it away. It has some glue on the back, so I didn't use it for any of my other alternates. So you can see I used that and this envelope for this card. So you have 3 of the blue spotted envelopes left, and I used all of those to make that design. You basically end up cutting it in half, so you're going to make 6 of those cards that I'm showing here. So that strip, we're going to cut into 3 pieces of the pattern paper, because one will be made like this, and then the other 2 from one card base will be used on the one with the flower on it. And I'm measuring that to make sure. I believe it's 1 5/8 inches. So we're going to trim down the pattern piece to where we need it. Always make sure you have the 5.5 inch piece going tall wise. With the direction of the pattern of the paper, it helps, but just as a double check, make sure you have your 5.5 going up. We're going to trim this at 1 5/8 inches twice. So you'll have 3 pieces from each envelope. The last piece you're going to use there. And if it's a little wider than your pale papaya layer, you can always trim it down a little bit. But mine worked out fine cutting it that way. Okay, so there's your 3 pieces from one envelope, and you'll do that for all 3 of your envelopes. And then this shows the vine card that we're going to make, and you're going to cut one of those envelopes very similar to the one we just cut with the pattern paper. So there is my finished card. I'm showing the different colors that I've used. It really doesn't matter what color you do your flower. Green is a pretty neutral color, so any color flower would go with that. Now I'm measuring the green pieces, and I believe those are 1.75. Again, you can refer to my PDF if you're a subscriber of mine and have that. So I only had 1 envelope left, so I'm going to have to kind of show you without cutting how I did this. So the pattern piece of this card is 5 inches by 3.75. So I would just line up my trimmer. First, you need to cut off the little score piece. I would need to do that regardless. So you would cut at 3.5 here, and that gives you that whole other piece if you choose to use it for another alternate. I did not, so that is totally up to you. And then, or you can trim at the 5 first, and then you'll have a longer or a taller piece left if you wanted to use that for another card. Again, I did not, so that's totally up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it for the 3 card piece, just to show you that again. So I'm trimming off the white pieces that are on the side of the envelope. And again, you want to leave it tall wise, and then trim it to 5.25. This one I did at 5.25, not 5.5. Just what I did this time. So then you have to trim off the white corners. So again, line up the white with the groove in your trimmer of where it's going to cut. And cut off those sides. Just a little bit of this, a little piece. And there you have your solid piece. I think I'm just checking the measurement of it to try to see if it works. So next you're going to want to cut it at 1.75 and then cut the remainder in half. which is close enough to 175, so I just did it again at 175, 1 3/4 inches. Okay, so now you have your 3 pieces for the card with the flower on it, and that's from one envelope, and your other 2 envelopes you can make with the flower card that's on your right with a more solid front. And then there's your little scraps to just throw away. You can see we wasted very little from this kit. So now that all our cutting is done, we can start by putting them together. And it's up to you. If you have additional supplies and you would rather create 6 of the ones with the pattern on the left, you are welcome to make those however you want to. So now we need to trim the blue polka dot paper for our other cards. So we're going to trim the white space off it, again, by lining up the white in the groove of where it's going to cut. And if you have any questions when you're making your cards, feel free to reach out to me, either comment on this video or those of my customers can text me. It's probably the best way to get in touch with me. And I'd be happy to walk you through these since we didn't have enough time to make these 41 cards in class. And also, if you're missing any of your supplies that you bought with the add-on kit, let me know that as well, and I'll get those cut and ready for you. So again, we're going to trim this one to 5.5 inches tall. And then this has the white space in the corner, so we're going to cut it off. And flip it to the other side, do the same. And by the way, Stampin' Up! Has already announced that they have the April kits in-house. So there should be no delay in shipping those. Always just make sure your payment information is up to date or your kit will go on the you'll get a notice and then they'll do a second billing on the 20th. But if you just go ahead and make sure your payment information is correct, if you are month to month, then there should be no delay. Now for this card, I gave you a scallop piece and a solid white piece. And the flower will not fit on that piece, and that's how I meant it. I meant it to hang over a little bit, and so that's how it was designed. So there we cut the blue piece in half after we trimmed it to 5.5 inches tall. So you'll do that for all 3 envelopes to end up with 6 pieces. And that's what we will use to make the patterned cards. So when you score your card base, I always put the point off, not on the cardstock, so that I don't make an extra score line on my card. And then I feel for which side may be a hair taller than the other one. So sometimes when you make your own, they are off, or even I've had store-bought ones that were off. And you just want your longest piece to be the front of your card so that you can't see the hangover. Okay, so then we're going to adhere these pieces right on the card, and they should fit top to bottom, left and right, and you might have a little gap in the middle, and then we're going to cover that with a strip of Misty Moonlight cardstock that I believe is 3/8 of an inch by 5/8 of an inch. I guess I'm hunting for my glue. So I do use I love liquid glue, the Tombow multi-purpose glue, and I put it in a fine tip glue pen just so that I don't ooze a whole lot of glue. It helps me get just enough so it doesn't ooze out. So I must not have had it upside down, so I'm having to wait for the glue to come to the bottom. I just put little dots all around it. And then when I go to put it on my card, if it is one that's 5.5 inches tall, I set it on there and then I use my tabletop to line it up. I don't think it matters which way, both patterns, I think that's what I was showing. There's not really a direction since some go up and some go down. So I use my tabletop to make sure it's square. And then I put just a little bit of pressure and rub the glue around the card so there's not just dots. Especially with the thin envelope paper, it might kind of wrinkle if you get too much glue. So by spreading it out there, that helps. So now we need to glue our white speckled paper on the right-hand side. So I do the same technique, just putting little dots of glue, and then I'm going to put it on the right-hand side. And to make sure it's flush, I will set it against my card or my desktop and line it up flush with the edge of the card. And then spread that glue out as well. Okay, so there we have the gap, which we're going to cover with our 3/8 of an inch by 5.5 inch strip of Misty Moonlight. And if you're like me, we always have these little strips of cardstock left when we use our cardstock, especially if we're doing mats of like 4 by 5.25. Then you have these little strips, and I save them because they come in here real handy when doing cards like this to help cover the gaps. And it also just gives a more layered look to your cards, kind of like a window pane on your left and one on your right. Gives it a nice finish, I think. I'm using my deluxe grid mat to make sure I get that straight. If you have grid paper, that works as well, but I had my foam mat, deluxe foam mat handy. So I use that for that. And it looks straight. So there is our finished card. And there I show that I do put the flower up on dimensionals, kind of towards the top third of my card. And then the sentiment, I used the thanks stamp from the kit and just used a scrap piece of white paper that I had and used a decorative edge punch for it. I used the Lovely Labels Pick-a-Punch on those corners, but I want to highlight that there's a Treasured Tags corner Pick-a-Punch that's on the last chance list that is discounted, I believe, half off. So I added that to my supply as well. So there I'm showing I already did a pre-cut one, and I actually put it on crushed curry scallop with the Stitch So Sweetly, and I didn't want that flower to go to waste, so I put it on that card. So if you had your own cardstock and wanted to use the crushed curry, that's fine, but I included the white with the add-on kit options that you could purchase. So I'm showing now that I didn't put a dimensional on the bottom part of that. I did on the right hand to hold it up, but I thought the bottom needed lifted up a little more. So when I do it after the fact, I'm showing I did put one on the corner, but not on the bottoms. I use my Take Your Pick tool, and I get half of a dimensional up. I take the backing off, which I should have taken the backing off before I picked it up. And then I just use my Take Your Pick tool to slide it up under there since it's so thin. So slide it under there, push your label down to pick up the dimensional, and then you can take your pick tool. So again, you'll make 6 cards like that. And there's no fussy cutting. You stamp the flower directly on that white piece, and again, it will hang over a little. There's not enough room to put the whole flower, but I think that looks fine. Okay, in this card, you will make 3 of. So if you chose the add-on kit purchase, then you will have a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 that was embossed with the Painted Textures 3D embossing folder. And you guys know I love embossing folders. If you already have a big shot, they are a great addition to add texture and dimension to your cards, and I love doing that. So when you go, I use my blending brush on that painted texture piece to color it. But I think on this next alternate, I'm going to show you without. But if you decide to use your blending brush, I would start on the piece where your pattern paper is going to cover it up in case you get too heavy. And then you can start blending out left and right. So there's one I did for another card that I will do. One of my 3. And I do like how the embossing will pick up where it's raised or lowered. We'll pick up a little more ink to keep the variation of color going. So that is ribbon that I had in my stash before I realized I hadn't even used the ribbon from our kit. So there I would use the ribbon from your kit, and you can barely see the score line that was on the envelope. And so if you're going to put ribbon on there, put that at the bottom, and then use your ribbon to cover up that score line that was put on your envelopes. So like I said, on this alternate, I was going to do one that I did not use my blending brush and color the embossed white piece. I'm digging through a kit trying to find my labels. So I found the lovely label punch, and again, that blue Misty Moonlight is from the Everyday Label Punch. And it is on the last chance list, reduced a little. So it's a good one to snag up because it's a nice big label to fit larger sentiments. And then I use to stamp my sentiment on, the punch is called Label Me Fancy, and I thought it layered very well with the Everyday Label Punch. So I didn't find my pale papaya piece to layer it on. But I think you guys can know what to do with that. I think I'm looking for it, and I finally just give up. Again, I would re-record these videos, except those are my last envelopes. So you're having to deal with this voiceover. I do like, I previewed this earlier, and I do like how the mic sounds. I got a new mic, and it seems to record much clearer than just using my phone mic. I'm getting my Stamparatus ready to maybe do a label. And again, feel free to use any of your sentiments, even from previous Paper Pumpkins stamp sets that you have, or any regular stamp sets that you've added to your collection. Or some people leave them blank until they know that what they need the card for and then add a sentiment, or simply just write your sentiment inside the card or stamp inside the card once you know what you need to use that card for. So here I'm showing some cards that I did with the On the Horizon Designer Series paper that's available in the mini June through July, or January through June mini catalog from Stampin' Up. So there I made 2 cards from just one piece. I simply sliced it in half because this is 6x6 Designer Series paper, and trimmed it to 5.5, matted it with coordinating paper, and the remaining 1-inch strip that you can see there, I cut it in half and used as my sentiment paper for the card. And that uses also the On the Horizon bundle as well. So that's just very easy, letting the paper do all the work for you. So I gave up looking for my stamp set because it was not where I wanted. And so I'm just showing you where it is. I added bling, some rhinestones to that as well. But if you want to keep it more masculine and you don't think the rhinestones work, you can leave those off. And so now we're going to move to our vine cards. And with one envelope, again, you will do 3, very similar like we did the other. And I have an embossed piece using the Meadow embossing folder, which is also on the last chance list. And it's discounted, I believe, to $4, which is a great value. And I do love the butterflies and vine design with that embossing folder. So it's a great one to add to your collection if you have a big shot. And that one would actually fit through the mini stamp cut and emboss machine as well, because it comes with 2 folders and they're of the slimmer size. So I'm showing you how you can use different colors for your flowers. That one there that I was holding was Flirty Flamingo, and the one I'm picked up now is Polished Pink, and the finished card is Calypso Coral. So that's what I used for those, and that is Misty Moonlight with greenery. And then I did use the little circle stamps that are part of that stamp set in the background of that Misty Moonlight one. So with that card, I used Pear Pizzazz leaves, and the leaves are stamped directly on. And the shine you see is because on all of my flowers, I use the Wink of Stella to add a little bling to them. And that a little note label is from the labels in your kit. And that is the largest scalloped rectangle from the Stitch So Sweetly with the blue flower. I do like how in our kits they put additional ideas you can use your stamps or your kit for. And so there's a little tag on the back that shows how they use the little circle splatter stamps. And so I thought I would add that on this last vine card. So that shows all the embossed pieces you should have in your add-on kit if you purchase that from me. And so you will make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards from your vine envelope, from your 3 vine envelopes. Okay, so my last video, I will show you how to make this card. We hadn't used the mountains yet that were in the kit, so we're going to create our own background. If you just have paper pumpkin stamp sets, then that one on top is showing how to make it with just those. This one, the other one uses the On the Horizon stamp set as well as the Oceanfront stamp set. And so that will be my next video. So I hope you all are enjoying all these alternates. Let me know in your comments below. That's showing the 6 cards we made with the green envelope, the bottom flap. I cut the flap off and cut that in half, so we had 6 cards, and there's all the other cards that we have. And I think I'm just wrapping things up. It's very hard to do these voiceovers when you're not sure. But anyway, again, please watch my other videos. I believe that's all I have for now. Take care. Next time.